Welcome to our session today. Again, we are going to be looking at Schoology, so if you would go ahead and log into your Gaston County Schools Schoology account, because we're going to spend a lot of time in there as we are learning more about Schoology. As I mentioned, we are recording this session and it's going to be added to our Schoology playlist in the Gaston Digital YouTube channel. Don't forget, speaking of Gaston Digital, to please visit our website. On our website, we have information about the learning pathways that we are using to help you guys as you're learning Schoology, all of the information about the virtual PD, and we have paced that out through October, so you can go check out what's upcoming in the future weeks. And don't forget our Schoology group on our workplace, as well as our FAQ document. It's all at Gaston Digital Schoology. So good morning, I'm Teresa Thomason. I am going to be the host for today's session, and along with me running the chat is Christy Turner.
Good morning, guys. I'm there if you need me. Just put your questions in the chat.
And as you probably know by now, Christy and I both have 6 different elementary schools across the county that we serve, and we're also helping out with the specific grade level with Gaston Virtual Academy. So our focus today is going to be living in the Resource Center and learning more about the groups that we all belong to in Schoology. And this is our agenda. So I want to do a big picture overview of what the Resource Center actually is. And I want to talk a lot about personal collections, because we don't necessarily need a PLC group for everything if we just want to share our resources, and we don't need to have discussions and all of that stuff that we can do in a PLC group. So I'm going to talk about those collections that a lot of people don't know even exist. We're going to look at our PLC groups and how to share resources and all of that, and how to make revisions once we pull in the resources that have been shared, whether it's among your PLC or the shared resources coming out of the academic facilitators. So as always, we focus our training around the North Carolina digital competencies. So our competency today is just the PLC environment together. And yes, that is part of digital learning competencies, because we have to think about how to recalibrate our teaching to meet our students' needs no matter what the environment. So let's find out who's along with us today. If you wouldn't mind, please put your school and your grade level in the chat and tell us how you've already used resources and or your PLC groups in Schoology. And I'm going to come over here and open the chat so I can actually see you guys. So I have all of that up on a different monitor, and that's why I'm turning my head. So if you haven't used groups or resources yet, if you'd let me know that as well, so I can kind of adjust the training this morning. I know most of you are at least a member of the elementary academic group, so a couple more seconds. We have a very small number with us today, but that's okay. The smaller the number, the easier it is to get your questions answered, right? All right, so let's keep going then. What I want to do now is I'm going to come out of this presentation, and you guys will get the presentation at the end of today's session, so don't worry about that. As I said, we're going to spend a lot of our time in Schoology itself. So let me pull this off. And in our Schoology, if you will go to your Resources tab across the top and open that Resources tab, this is what I want to talk a lot about. So first of all, when you first open resources from that tab, you land in what's called your home collection. And what that means is this is your personal storage area for anything that you are saving into your resources. So just for a heads up, at the very end of the year, we're going to put your whole entire course material into your resources. So that way we'll have it to be able to pull things in for next year if we're in the same situation, or you can tweak it to use in a blended learning environment. We want to make sure that we save everything into your personal resources. And you can organize your personal collection however you want to. You have an Add Resources at the top, and just like you have an Add Materials button in your course itself, when you click the drop down on your home collection for Add Resources, notice that you can add a folder and you can add assignments and assessments and so forth. We're going to come back and talk about this a little bit later. Just know when you are in your resources and you are adding resources here like an assignment, it's really a template because your students are not interacting with any of these resources yet. They're your personal collection. They're living here. So the question I get a lot is, well, we have Google Drive. Why do we need this? And that is a great question. So I want to kind of address that. First of all, Google Drive is going to stay around. We don't have to worry about ever losing it. We know that we have a 3-year contract with Schoology. Don't know what's going to happen after that contract runs out. So anything that I'm creating as far as my Google resources, I'm going to make sure that they still live in Google Drive. And the cool thing is, if you create anything in Drive, it's going to be there and you can pull it into resources here if you want it to live here, or just pull it straight into your course. So the resources that I personally are saving in here are things that I've created in my Sandbox course that I want to maybe pull over later into a real live active course. And I do that so I can kind of see how it looks. So I just save things that way in my personal home collection. So you'll see that I have a welcome link and I've got folders with templates and badges and so forth in it of things that I've created inside of Schoology that's Schoology specific. Any Google stuff is still in my Google Drive and it still lives there. So I hope that kind of makes sense. And if it doesn't, I'm going to just ask you to unmute your mic and ask the questions or pop them into chat for Christy, because I cannot see the chat at all right now while I'm presenting. So, and Christy, stop me if there are any questions. So that is the difference between your home personal resources and your Google Drive resources. But if you'll look still on your screen, not all the way over to the left, but in the middle section of the left, under your My Resources, you have such things as home, learning objectives, downloads, public, and so forth. You'll notice that I have a few others. So I've actually created extra collections of things that I can share. And the beauty of that is I don't have to necessarily have a PLC group if I'm working with my team. And maybe I'm responsible for all ELA material and I'm going to share that out with my teachers that teach with me. Or if I'm a GVA person and I'm sharing it out with all of my 4th grade people, I can just create a collection and share that particular collection and not have another group. And I apologize for my dogs barking in the background. I am obviously working from home and we have somebody checking our or doing our system check for our heating and air conditioning today for the annual, checkout thing. So I'm sorry for that. Please ignore them. So anyway, I can create a collection and it will live for me under my resources. If one of my colleagues, maybe that person's doing math, if they create a collection and share it with me, it will live still on the left-hand side, but it will be under shared by others. So the great thing is I can put all of my templates and things in that particular collection and still share it out. So I want to show you guys how to do that, how to create a collection. So if you will look next to my resources, it looks like a filing cabinet box with a green light on it. If you click that green light, you're going to get a dialog box that pops up that says Add Collection. And I'm going to name this collection, let's do 3rd grade math. You can name it whatever you want to, whatever you're responsible for your team. And if you'll click Create, notice that it populates again on the left side under your My Resources. And you can reorder these collections if you don't like the order that they're showing up. Again, next, kind of go up to the top beside of My Resources and click the drop down arrow beside of the filing cabinet box and choose Reorder. And then you can actually just drag and drop that folder or click the arrow to move it up to where you want it to go. And mine is not working today, but trust me, it usually does. So once you have your folder collected, or your folder collection created rather, I'm going to click on its name in the left-hand corner. And now notice I'm in this particular folder and I have 3 buttons across the top. So I can, again, add resources into this folder, from folder all the way down to badges and so forth. But the second button is one of the most important. When you click the share button, it's going to pull up the people that are in your school. So obviously I'm Gaston County Schools, so it's pulling up everybody here. But let's say that I'm going to put those folks in my collection. I want them to be able to see what's in my collection. I just click their names, and you'll notice it'll turn them green, and I get the green check mark. I don't want to freak them out by adding, so I'm going to search for Christy. And I've added her, so I'm going to add my people. So once you check off the folks that you want to share this collection with, this collection of resources, click Add People. And then come back to your sharing button and click on it one more time. And now notice that right now Christy only has view only rights. That means she can only see what's in my collection, but I want her to maybe be able to add things that she finds. Even though I'm responsible for math, she might have a great idea and she can stick it in here. I'm going to click the drop down and I'm going to change it to Can Edit. So sort of like Google, when we want them to be able to edit the material, we need to change it from view only, which is the default, to Can Edit. And I can come back and add more people in the same way later if I need to. So I'm going to save those changes. And the final option is I can rename this collection or I can delete it if I so choose. So I'm going to give you guys just a second to create a collection. And if you want to share this collection as your artifact of attendance today, you can go ahead and share that collection with me. And then you can take me out in a couple of days. Let me look and see if there's anything in the chat that's on. Nope, good. All right, so hopefully you've created your collection, and we'll come back and we're going to add something from our course in the collection, or maybe create in just a few minutes. Before I leave my resources, I want to talk about the public area. When I click on mine, it's going to be empty. This would be any resources that I share to the public collection of resources that Schoology users from all over the world have been sharing. So you're probably wondering, what in the world is she talking about there? So glad you asked. So if you'll move over further to the left, you'll see that the personal filing cabinet is open. That's where we're living right now, our personal resources. But one down on the bottom, you'll notice the word public. So click on the word public. And now check this out. These are public resources that Schoology educators, again, from all over the world have made public, that you can actually preview, and then you can add them to your resources and tweak them and pull them into your courses if you want to do that. So you'll notice across the top that you have the ability to do a search. You can also filter this material down by subject, resource type, grade level, the file type that you're looking for, and even ratings of other teachers. So speaking of ratings, please know that Schoology does not vet the resources that show up in the public resource tab. So you'll have to use your educator-ness, your educator ideas, and your knowledge of your content and your students to know that these resources are good or not. But there's things from badges to templates and so forth. So just to show you, I'm going to go ahead and click in the search box, and I'm going to type in SGY, hashtag SGY stands for Schoology, and I'm going to type in the word PD. And I know you don't want any more PD, but just trust me when I find stuff in here. I want to show you some things. So when I'm looking at this search field, now I can look at building community with students' online learning ideas. And there's a description of what's in here. So how can we build community among our students? In this folder, there's a great list of ideas to help you build online communities, inviting, safe, and trusting space for your students. So you might want to go in there and look at that. The second choice that pops up is student choice boards and playlist templates. So this is, again, a gathered collection of possible templates that I could use to create choice boards or playlists. Keep going. There's a talk starter for discussions. You can look at things in that. So I'm going to stop talking for just a few minutes and give you guys an opportunity to peruse what's available in the public resources.
Teresa, we have
Yes.
a question that Dana is saying that when she goes to share her collection, she can only share it with the BCC staff.
That's correct. Because you are associated to your school. I'm associated to all of Gaston County schools, so I can share with anybody across the district. So that's going to be the one difference, Dana. You can share within your, and again, this is thinking about your grade level. If you want to share resources among your kids or among your teachers at BCC, you can use collections. If you need to go further out than that, you're going to have to use the groups, which we're going to get to in just a minute. Great question.
Okay, so I just for me to be clear too, then she can't share the collection with you.
Oh, that's right. She can't. I forgot about that part. I was thinking that they could. So yeah, don't worry about sharing that collection with me. I'll come up with another artifact at the end. Thank you. I didn't think about that either. All right, so let me show you what happens when you add something from the public resources area. So let's say I really like the student choice board and playlist template. So I'm going to come over to the plus sign and I'm going to click it. And now it says it's been added. But added where? So let me go back and show you. I'm going to come over to the left and I'm going to click on the filing cabinet box for my personal resources. And I'm going to go under my resources area and I'm going to choose downloads. Then anything that I have found in the public community will show up in my downloads folder. So, and just like in Schoology, the last thing added goes all the way to the bottom. So here is the student choice boards and playlist templates in my downloads. Now I can leave it there. It's not going to hurt anything. Or I can come over to the gear on the right-hand side and I can copy it to another collection. I can put it in my home collection. I could share it in my 4th grade ELA resources. I could put it in my 5th grade science collection, my 3rd grade math. Notice also I could share it to a group, and we're going to talk about that shortly. So if I want to put this in the ITF group resources, I can certainly do that. So for this example, I'm just going to put it in home. Just going to leave it in home. Not really going to put it in a folder, and the reason why is because it came over as a folder, so I'm going to leave it that way and just copy it. So now when I scroll back up and go over to the left under my resources and click home, here in my resources is the choice board and playlist templates, and then I can come in and edit and add those to my course. Any questions on that? All right, if not, let's go all the way one more time to the left. There's a couple of more buttons that I want to talk about. We have a group button underneath our public selection of collections. So this is a quick way to get to your group resources. You don't necessarily have to go to the groups tab at the top if you're already in resources. So if I want to check out something that the elementary academic services have shared, I can click on the group resources toward the left and then go into any of the pacing information or the technology resources that the ITFs have provided inside of there. So you'll see all of the groups that I am a member of shows up under resources. Now there's a couple of ways that you can make groups, and I want to talk about the differences here, and Dana helped us point out one of them. As a collection, your collections can only be shared amongst the schools that you are associated with. And I'm really surprised that I didn't show up in Bessemer City Central as I'm thinking about it more, because I have all the schools, but that's okay. We won't worry about it. So you can create groups from your resources area just as easily as you can create a groups from the groups tab. So if you'll come up to beside of group resources, kind of toward the left, and you'll see the two people icon. When you click that box, the create group will show up here for you, just like it does in the groups area. So the difference again is, as a group, I can, or you can as teachers, collaborate with anybody across Gaston County schools, because it's contained within our organization. So that also means that any parents that are associated with our system, when they're associated with their child, is part of our organization. So they could be invited to join a group. So you don't have to think just PLCs when you're thinking about groups. Anything that you want to do, such as a club, could be created as a group, and other people can be invited as long as they're associated with our organization of Gaston County Schools. So I'm going to go ahead and create another group, and I'm going to leave it my Gaston County Schools as everybody, because that's my association, and I am going to call my group, for this one I'm going to do delete this one, delete this group. You can put a description. This group will be our PLC hub for second grade teachers across GCS. You don't have to put a description there. That's totally optional. For your privacy, if you'll click the drop down, you'll notice that it can be the whole organization again, anybody associated with the whole school system, or it could be anybody associated with your particular school, including parents. Then it could be just the people in this group, and you could just do no one, or you could do a custom one. So for mine, I'm going to leave it organization. For access, how do you want members to be able to get to the group? Most of the time, it's going to be an invitation, but your other choices are to allow people to request to join your group, or you can leave it open. If you leave it open and say, and you choose school, anybody that's associated with your school can become a member of your group. So I'm going to leave mine as invite only. And then beside of category, you can select category and choose what kind of group you're creating. So maybe, again, it's an extracurricular activity. You can choose that. It could be a faculty group. It could be a department group. It could be a club. Whatever kind of group you're going to create. I'm going to do this one as a faculty group. And then I'm going to click the create button. And you will notice, I'm still in resources. Over on the left, it came in alphabetical order. So here is my delete this group, and I can add resources here. Again, from folder all the way down to badges. Or if I can do options, I could put in learning objectives if I was doing this for, say, an extracurricular activity. So I'm going to flip over now to the Groups tab, and I'm going to ask you guys to come with me over there, please. Because this is where you can better see. And let's go into my delete this group that I just created. This is where you can better see the difference even more of what you can do with a group. So just like in our course, we have the opportunity to post updates. So we could use our group to remind our members that we have picture day coming if it has something to do with the club. Or we could remind our group that they need to bring Lucy Calkins material to our PLC meeting today. So whatever your updates can be posted into the update area. And just like in our Schoology courses, we have all the rich text editor material. So if you want to bring in the agenda for today's meeting, you could even link that in here if you wanted to. You could leave a message for your folks with the video recording if you wanted to do that. At the bottom of the text box, you'll have your filing cabinet. So you could pull in a resource from anything in your filing cabinet. So I'm going to go back to my resources. And this time I'm going to show you can go to apps and you can pull in anything from your Google Drive that you have saved in Google. So again, that's why I personally am going to make sure that I keep all my Google stuff in Google Drive, because I can easily bring that in from here. Discussions, if you guys want to have discussions, most of you are a member of the elementary academic group, and there's lots of questions and answers happening in that group, and that's in the discussion area. Albums are media albums, so if for some reason in the group, and I can't think of a reason really for PLCs unless you are sharing anchor charts as images, that you would create an album. But maybe if you're doing it as a club or an extracurricular activity, you can have pictures of what's going on in the club or videos of things that you've made and share that within the group. The members section, again, is where I can go and I can add members, or I can give them the access code to join my group. And resources is where we're going to live at the most. Again, any resources that I put into this group will be in the resources tab here, as well as the resources tab in the green navigation bar. One final thing, you can change the picture of your group by doing the edit picture, by adding a file or choosing one of their pre-made images. And under group options, and this is super important, if you guys would click on group options of a group that you are a moderator of or you own, click on edit privacy and group settings. Now, a lot of this stuff is set at the district level, but if you'll come down under other settings, you're going to want to check beside of create resources, all members. And that way you don't have to make them an admin of your group. So if they are a member of this particular PLC, they're going to be able to add resources and create resources for our group. If you make that change, be sure you save changes. The other option for that is if you go to members, and as your members start populating, beside of their name you have a gear. So you would have the option to make them an admin. So those are the two ways that people can add. But if you just go into your privacy on your groups and change it to where they can do resources, you don't have to make them an admin. So that's a quick overview of groups and how they're kind of different than your collections. So what questions do you guys have?
There's none in the chat right now.
All right, and everybody's kind of crickety silent. So let's go back to the groups tab and I'll show you a couple of more pretty exciting things about groups. So just like your courses, when you click groups, your thumbnails that show up are only room for 12 groups that you belong to. So if you get more groups going on than 12, they're not going to show up in your thumbnails. So you're going to come over again under your groups tab and go all the way to the right and click my groups. And just like we can do with our courses, again to the right under join group and create group buttons, if you click reorder groups, you can drag and drop the groups in the order that you want them to show up in your tiles. If you have more than 12, there'll be a dashed line across the bottom, and anything below the dashed line will not show up when you click the courses or the groups tab in the tab menu. So when you're in my groups this way, you have a my groups tab. So this is another way to see all of your groups kind of in one place. And they come in alphabetical order. So you can come in here and click on any of these groups and open them up. The second tab is school groups. So you should be able to see groups that have been created for your particular school. So I'm going to drill down to Bessemer City Elementary, or Belmont Central Elementary rather, and I can see groups that have been created there. Does that mean I'm a member of them? No, I can just kind of see them. But here's the cool part. Notice that there's also a public group tab. So if you click public group tab, oh my gosh, check out the public groups. So there's a Schoology educator group, there's a flipped classroom group, there's differentiated instruction group. You can join any of these groups and be a member, including the one that's called New to Schoology. So I'm going to stop talking for a second and let you guys look at those public groups and see if you want to become a member of any of them. If you do, just click the Request to Join button, and the group member will allow you to join. At some point, you'll get a little message that you've been added to that group. All right, so now let's talk about getting resources into either your collection or to your group. So there's a couple of ways to do that. So I'm going to go back to the Resources tab. And for my example today, I'm going to go into the 3rd grade math collection that I created while you guys were watching. So if you create resources inside of the Resources tab, whether you're in the Resources tab for your group, PLC group, or any group that you're a member of, or if you're in My Resources in a collection that you have, and you click Add Resources, these are templates. So the first thing I would do, because I am an organizational freak and I admit it, if I'm in a PLC group, I'm going to want to make folders to house everything. So I would come into my collection or my PLC group, click on Add Resources, and make a folder, just because I want to keep it organized. So maybe for math, I would do it by the strands. And you can change folder colors if you want to, and put a description on it if you want to, and click Create. So I would build out, and this is just me personally, again, because I want things to be organized, to create folders to stick stuff in. Anything that you add when you click Add Resources, again, is a template. So the folder stays in your resources. The folder itself can be added later to a course if you want it to be, or it can just live in here as a template. If I come, and I'm still in Resources, and I add a discussion, then this is a template that can be added. So I'm going to call this one Example Discussion. And I can use my rich text editor to put anything that I want to about the discussion prompt. Discuss what you learned while reading water cycle. I can't even spell today. PDF. And I could attach the PDF. I could put a video. I could add a rubric to this discussion if I wanted to. But notice that I don't have any other options really, other than I could align it to objectives or put resource notes, what level it is. And if I'm going to put this in public, I would need to make sure that I fill all of this out. But just for my coworkers that are going to use it, I don't have to put all that stuff there. So I'm going to submit it. And now that example discussion lives in the resources. So anything that the academic facilitators have put in resources for you that you want to use, or your coworkers have added into resources for you to use, you go to that resource, you click the drop-down arrow on the gear, and you've got some options. As a user in the group, you have editing rights to whatever they put in there, but remember you're editing the original, so be careful with that. You can add it to a course. You can copy it out of your group or your collection to another collection that you have. So if the academic facilitators have shared something and you don't want to copy it straight to a course, you can copy it into your resources, so they'll be there. So I'm going to select Add to Course, which is my second choice in that drop-down. And any course that I am an administrator of or a teacher of shows in my list. So then I can pop that item into this particular course. So I'm going to choose my math course. And notice that I can put it in a folder. So if this goes with my Unit 1 math unit, I can put it in that folder. Advanced options is when I can enable grading on it and put in due dates. So if I want this one to be due October 1st, if I want to enable grading, I'd be able to do that. I can't do it because I don't have grading rights, but you guys should be able to. And I'm going to click Add. And then I'm going to come over to my tab, and I'm going to click on Courses. And I'm going to go into my math course and into my Unit 1 folder just to show you guys. And here's the example discussion. So let me pause, time out, listen very carefully to what I'm going to tell you next. I may still need to do some editing when I get it from resources into my course. And here are some things that you need to know, and this is so important. I'm going to bring this back over and jump down a little bit to this part. So anytime you pull stuff from shared resources, this is things that come over. So anything that you put in the rich text editor for your assignment, pages, discussions, all of that stuff you type in, all of the YouTube videos that you add, all of your Google presentations that you put in there, all of that's going to come with it. It's going to stay in there. So anything embedded, anything linked, any nested materials, any directions are all going to come over. What you will have to change or edit is going to be anything that's unique to the teacher. So let's say Christy has shared an assignment about the water cycle, and in that assignment she made a Google drawing where they're supposed to label different parts of the water cycle. When I pull that out of shared resources, that Google drawing belonged to her. I need to go in and make a copy of that drawing to have it belong to me and put my copy in this material. You need to kind of tweak it to make it your own. And this is huge when you're doing an assignment, because you know we attach something from our Google Drive as a template for our students to edit. So if Christy makes this assignment and she puts this in as a template where they're going to drag and drop the label parts of a water cycle, when I bring that assignment in, that template's gone. So I need to go in there and pull the template in. So let me get this back out of the way and show you guys what I would do. Pull that over. I'm going to go back into resources, and I am going to go back into the math one that we were just playing with, and I'm going to edit this discussion. So what I would do for my coworkers is I would change my lettering and maybe even change the color of what I'm going to say here and say, be sure that you copy this file and add to your edited, in this case, discussion. And then I would link this file. So I would copy it and come up to the Insert Content button, which is the little square with the arrow pointing to it, and do link or Google Drive. For this one, I'm going to do really fast, gaston.k12.nc.us. Just so they'll have that copy to be able to fix it when they bring it into their course. So there's probably questions on that. So I'm going to pause and wait and see what questions we have.
None in the chat, Teresa.
Wow. All right. Trusting you guys are okay. Please don't be shy. Put your questions in the chat or unmute your mic. So the thing.
We got one.
Okay, good.
We have one now. It says, if I share a Google slide for a doc with the other teachers, do they still have to make a copy, or will it work because it is shared with them?
If it's shared and they don't need to make any changes to it, then it should be fine. But your templates, again, for a Google assignment is not going to work, period, no matter if they're shared with the teacher or not, because it strips that attachment off. So anything embedded, so I'm sure you'd probably have that document or whatever embedded in there, or it's linked in there, and it's got anybody at Gaston County can view, then your teachers and their students will be able to see it. Also think about if you are linking in that particular assignment to something specific to your course, because you know when you go anywhere in your course, go into my Sandbox course, no matter where I go, the URL address changes. So if I go to, let's scroll down, I go into, past all this, past that. If I go into this discussion, that URL address is different. So if I've copied that into anything that I put into resources, then my coworkers need to change that too, because your kids can't get into my course, and if they click on my course link, they're going to get the message that says privacy. You're not allowed to be in here. When in doubt, email us when you're doing those resources, and we will help you kind of figure out what you need to change.
Another question, can you share a teacher-created test with other teachers?
Can you be more specific with what kind of test? Are you talking about assessments that you created inside of Schoology? Or are you talking about a Google form?
Yeah, yes, in Schoology.
All right, so I've got some assessments that I've created in Schoology, and I'm in my course. And Darlene, this is a perfect segue because this was the next thing I'm going to show you. Personally, again, I like to make my resources or what I'm doing or building my course out for my kids in the course itself. That way I can see what it looks like, and I can go under view only and kind of see what it looks like for them too. Mostly it looks the same way for kids. So then once I get it created in my course, I'm ready to share it to my peeps. So for Darlene, I've created this assessment sampler using all of the assessment pieces inside of Schoology. So I'm going to go over to the gear and notice that I have options. I can copy it to a course, or the very last choice, I can save it to resources. So if I choose Save to Resources, and click the drop down arrow beside a home, because I don't necessarily want to put it in my personal resources where only I can see it. I want my group that I created today to be able to get to this assessment sampler. So I'm going to save that copy. And then when my coworkers go to that group and go into resources, they can click the drop down and add it to their course. Now it depends on what's inside of the assessment that would have to be changed. So again, they would need to tell you if there's anything in there. Most of the time though, these assessments, there's not really going to be any tweaking unless you've recorded yourself reading something and you want your own voice. So, and Christy's working on assessments right now. So Christy, is there anything you want to add about that ability?
No, I mean, well, you've said it.
So we have created one assessment for first grade. I don't know if I've got any first grade people that have been shared inside of the academic facilitator group. And I don't remember what unit. It was ELA, something about snap words. So it's been created in there, and teachers can bring that into their course. So the elementary academic facilitators have been working hard on putting some stuff in here, including some things for asynchronous students. So if you teach any of those, you're going to find that in their resources. So guys, that is a quick overview of the difference between resources and groups. It's pretty powerful, pretty awesome stuff that's available in here. Just kind of preview, make sure that I put everything in here that I said I was going to. we're going to get this presentation shortly. So all of them have either quick videos of how to do what I showed you or GIFs running through showing you what we went through just as a review. So are there any questions about the difference between a collection and groups, how to reorder your groups, how to join public groups or find public resources? All right, so let me drop this presentation link into the chat so you guys will have that. So our biggest takeaways is if you're creating a PLC group that you either make them an admin or go in under privacy and change that privacy so everybody can share resources in your group. Be sure when you are sharing resources, if there's something in it that you've put that teachers need to tweak or change, to highlight it in a different color and make sure that they can see that in the instructions. And depending on your coworker, you may need to even say delete this part of the instructions when you're finished. It's a good idea to do anything that you're linking as a forced copy in Google Drive. And I want to show you guys how to do that really quickly. So for this example, I'm going to come into the share so you guys can see the link, and we'll copy the link. Open another tab so you guys can see the link for this presentation. So to get it to force copy, anything in Google works this way. If you will go to the very end of the URL address and highlight all the way up to the word edit, leave the slash. So from edit on, delete. And then type in the word copy, C-O-P-Y. So again, it's up to edit and everything after, delete, then type in the word copy. And when you give somebody that, it's forcing them to make their own copy of it. So you don't have to worry about whether they're doing it right and getting it under their login or that you shared it to them or whatever. You can make it a copy. So that's a little like a plus trick. So you may want to do that. Definitely put in red or orange or a bright color, calling their attention to anything that they need to change.